Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, Level 1, Lesson 8, February 13th, Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So we're beginning with a question from a wonderful participant. Genia says, can one rainbow lasagna with another person? What an excellent question. The answer is yes. So for anyone who is accessing this video with no context, you don't know, what is this? What am I talking about? Flying rainbow lasagna. This is a higher dimensional torus shape. Where's my yellow sculpture? This is a torus or a toroid or a donut. When this goes into a higher dimensional state, it becomes this shape. And this shape can be considered a frequency bridge, or a thing that brings together two formerly divergent realms, or two things or more things that are separated by a membrane. So it can be something like the past from the future, or the inside from the outside, or even person A from person B. So in order to connect two things that were formerly divergent, the big understanding, like leap of understanding, is that the singularity, which is this convergence point there, that is single by definition. It's like saying number one. The number one is one. There's only one one. There cannot be more than one one. If there was more than one one, it would be 2 or 3 or 4 or 12. So there can only be one one, and that's literally what this is. It's the zeroth dimension. It's infinity. It's the convergence point. It's both the source of all consciousness on its journey and the destination, because these are all these wonderful figure eights and circular journeys. And in order to connect self with anything, you just understand that this singularity that is inside of you is the same singularity that is inside of someone or something else. That's the cognitive leap. It's not like saying, well, I have this singularity is inside of person A, and this singularity is inside of person B. Like they're two separate things. No, they are the same exact thing. It's kind of like if I take my magical, stylish rainbow scarf, and I say, this is the stretchy fabric of time, space, and consciousness, right? Like a big tablecloth. And let's say, okay, I'm going to start stretching it. Here's God's finger. God's finger is stretching, stretching, stretching. Look, I'm like some kind of a magician, stretching the fabric. So we get like, like a long stretched out thing like that. And that's one person. The singularity that's in one person is a stretched out thing like that. Let's stretch the other singularity of another person. Here's my finger. God's finger is stretching another long, stretchy singularity. And the thing is, both of these singularities, they touch. They go to the same place. They go to the same place. There's a million stretched pieces of fabric that all converge in the same place. That's the big takeaway, that you and everything else are connected through the singularity. So yes, you absolutely can flying rainbow lasagna, the verb, between yourself and another person. And what would that look like? What would that experience be like? What would the end result be like? It would be a blending, like blending a scoop from your inside with a scoop from your outside. It would be like blending a portion of your own genetic material, your own mind, your own feelings, your own song. That's my song. I'm going to take a little bit of my song and I'm going to put it into that guy over there. This is consensual. This is not rape. That's that guy's song. I'm going to put some of this into here. And then we're going to play them both together. Interesting. That makes interesting new music with more richness and complexity than was available before. So this is the whole idea. Yes, it is appropriate and ethical to do this, because all of us musicians, genetic musicians, are affecting one another before we even flying rainbow lasagna, before we even do this type of rapport. This is lovemaking. This is intentional. And I'm actually about to get into level 1 stuff, which is all about telepathy and Christ consciousness and how this all happens on a bridge of love. Let me just drink a little bit of juice. There you go. Jeannie is asking a wonderful question. She says, or they say, do I need to give them the heads up? Is it ethical not to? So all of what I teach, all of this flying rainbow lasagna maneuver is powered by unconditional love. And what I tell people to do, all of this connection is done through a bridge of love. Love is a tone that we make when we move through time at one moment per moment. I should write a whole song about that. Love is a tone. Love is like a food that we make and we eat it and we give it to other people. Like we feed each other with this wonderful food. And it is the antithesis of technology or technologically amplified mind waves. So there are many unethical beings here in this time and place, and I applaud your desire to be ethical in your affecting of reality, affecting other people, and affecting the music of reality. Yeah, all of this is supposed to be done consensually and on a bridge of love. So what that means is I didn't plug my brain into some kind of a computer, to make this happen. Like where's the thing? Like, whatever, plug. Here's a plug. You can't even see it. I'll plug a thing into my brain. Oh, now y'all can hear me. It's like going amplified, right? No, I am not amplified. I am unplugged. I am 100% acoustic, and that's ethical. Whatever you can do acoustically, not amplified, with your own body. It's like, some people are opera singers. Man, they are loud. They can shatter glass just with their regular voice. They don't need no stinking amplifier. So that's ethical behavior. Literally, like if you have strong muscles, if you have a strong voice, if you're not being technologically augmented, it is ethical for you to sing, to dance, to make your music, and to affect other people. And in terms of telepathy, doing something on a bridge of love. So there's a difference between like, hey, I'm just making my music. I'm just doing my thing. Now let's say I want to make my music or connect to someone else, not just expressing myself in a general sense. The ethical thing to do is on a bridge of love, connect to another person, and you say, hey, knock, knock, knock. I'd like to talk to you. Are you into it? Just like if I have a friend in town and I want to go over and visit, I'm just pulling a drop in. I do that sometimes when I'm out walking cheeky. Knock, knock, knock. I ring the bell. Is it cool? Is it a good time? Oh no, you've got your hair in curlers. Oh no, you're in your bathrobe. Then we'll come by another time. So we all, in terms of creating a telepathic society that works on love, have to be understanding and accommodating of one another. Like, do you want to talk to me? Is it a good time? And are you interested in this topic? And that's, the ethical way of doing it. So you can always say knock, 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 or you can say, hey, I'm going to send you some lasagna energy and it's going to wait there for you in your inbox. And if you like it and if you want it, then you press yes, receive, inbox. And if you don't like it and you don't want it, then you can spam that. You can say, oh, no, I don't want that. And this also goes for other things like healing energy, Reiki energy, whatever. If you want to send that out to someone, it's Merkaba's protection. Pedro has asked me about this. I love and appreciate that you care about someone else and want to help them, feed them, give them energy, protect them in some way. That is a good impulse that I wish to encourage. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, I want to send out something good to someone, but oh no, what if I do the wrong thing and then I'll get bitch slapped by the cosmos? No, the cosmos is never going to be like, naughty, naughty, you were trying to be good and help someone. It's not going to be like that. You might be corrected or have a lesson or a corrective experience if you're doing something with good intention that is invasive of someone else's mind and space, personal mind or energy space. Then you might be corrected. But if your intention was good, then it won't be like, oh, now you're going to suffer for, 10,000 years because you tried to do something good. So please, be at peace with that. Hold on. Oh, Joelle, it's wonderful to see you. I'm happy that you made it here. So let me get more into the lesson for today, which is about non-religious Christ consciousness. And then I'll even be able to circulate back around to some of these ideas of ethical considerations of telepathic connections. And I think this is going to be probably a long recording. I might have level 1 go a lot into level 2. Joelle says, yes, it doesn't feel good to telepathically connect with or send healing energy to someone if they don't want it. Exactly. Just like it doesn't feel good to be in someone's house if they don't want you there, or having a conversation with someone else who doesn't want to talk with you. It's just common sense. Totally. So in terms of building musician rapport, like I'm playing this and you're playing that. So rapport is like, hey, how you feel? Hey, that feels pretty good. How you feel? That feels pretty good. You can kind of tell, like if you've been visiting going over a friend's house too much and you knock on their door and they're like, you again. Like you can tell. You can tell if it's like, oh, okay, not a good time, or whatever. They're not having a good day, not a good time. We'll walk on. We'll come back another time. So yeah, you use your rapport, your sensitivity, your emotional and intellectual sensitivity to tell whether it's good. It's supposed to be something that is pleasant and comfortable for everybody who is involved. So let me now get into the lesson for right now is non-religious Christ consciousness, or we could call it the inner eye. We could call it the eye of pure insight. Wait, okay, blah, blah, blah. Let me get my stuff. I moved everything around. Here's this. And where's my other thing? I'm sorry that I'm like not in a good angle here. Let me reach back here and get this thing. My magic trackpad, because I have to write and draw. Okay, good. First of all, I'm speaking about an aspect of your anatomy. The whole intention of speaking about this aspect of your anatomy is so that you will be empowered and be able to better use your own anatomy. As I said in the intro, a little Facebook intro that I do, when I say that this aperture is an individual connection to Christ or to Christ consciousness. To be very, very abundantly clear, I'm not talking about or in any way saying only people who self-identify as Christians or say they're in the Christian religion or have had an experience of, Christ or something like that, only those people are allowed to have this part of their body. No, it's like saying this is my nose, or this is my ears, this is my eyeballs. This is a part of each one of us, each one of our bodies, no matter what your ethnicity or religion or, intellectual persuasion, it's a part of your body. So we have physical eyeballs that ingest physical light, physical photons. We have a non-physical aspect of our anatomy that is our inner eye that is all about seeing through time. So now let me go to some of my prepared images that I have for today. So this is one sketch, and I'll leave that other little one kind of like sitting in the corner there. Let me make my face a little bit bigger so you can see. So one of the points of emphasis on this particular sketch is, okay, I'm talking about an interplay between two chakras or energy centers of your body. And I tend to generalize and call this whole part of your body your higher faculties. Basically, everything that is above this level down here, this is green, this is the level of the heart. So in this drawing, you can see that I have this circle over here. That is a simplification that would be considered like the central convergence point of the chakra or energy center. That is your heart. And the heart emits an enormous energy field. I can't get my pen to go all the way over there, which you can see makes almost like a disc that spins up here at the level of your shoulders. So you've got a gyrostabilization effect where you have your heart is creating this spinning vortex of energy right about here. And then all of these other nested chakras balance upon that spinning foundation. So this is all based upon a foundation of unconditional love. And unconditional love, as I've described in lesson 5 of level 1, is a frictionless mental state where we don't have the verbalized mind that says, I am thinking about peanut butter and jelly. I pick up the red pencil now. It is our true mind that is nonverbal. So in order to get our heart up to speed and get that energy center spinning to the point that you have a nice stable foundation for the rest of this work, it's necessary to be able to be mindful, to meditate, to stop the inner speaking, inner dialogue, and be able to cultivate your energy as opposed to fritter away your energy in constant verbalized thought. So big emphasis here. The higher faculties and their functioning is all based upon the cultivation of unconditional love. That's like the energy, the gas that makes your car go. And also there's an interplay here between these two energy centers or chakras of the body. So the first one is this blue or indigo chakra of the body that when I draw these as like these 4 vortices. There are 4 vortices that are in this drawing, but they might not all be evident. So you can see there's one over here and there's one over here, but there's also one that's in front of the face. And of course, there's one that's behind the head that we can't even see because the head is opaque. And the energy centers are whirling and swirling aspects of time, and they swirl in these motions, like they swirl around in circular motions like this, and there's like a lens, literally a lens in front of your face, and there are ones that swirl around like this too, but then it also swirls around in this direction. The whole apparatus goes around, so you have a lens that is going around like this, but then the whole entire thing is constantly moving around your head and around your face. That is your anthropomorphic lens. Anthropomorphic meaning human-centered. It is the viewpoint through which you interpret abstract reality in order to relate to the world. So your body is human. Guess what, guys? I'm in a human body. I'm an abstraction. I'm in a human body. So I look at the world through the filter, the lens of interpretation that is the human lens of interpretation. So let's say if I am looking at the world through the human lens of interpretation and I assess this nutrient, is mango juice nourishing or edible to a human? Yes, mango juice is both nourishing and delicious to a human. Let's say that I was a completely different species. Let's name something weird and bizarre. A platypus. I don't know if platypuses drink mango juice, but if I were a platypus, I would look at the world through the platypus lens and I would assess nutrients and I would say, is this edible to me? Is this appropriate for me? So and I'll go further with all of what this is. Interplay between this level of perception and this level of perception. So I just pointed to both my forehead and then I pointed to the top of my head where my ponytail emerges. That is the crown. So this is violet. So we have an interplay. Let me move my little thing for here so I can play. We have an interplay between two levels of your being or two layers of time that are moving at different rates. So like I've done this in the past. We begin with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, white light. So this indigo violet, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about two of the highest frequencies within the human octave. And this frequency over here is your eye of insight. That is unverbalized perception of the world. So if we are saying that, let's say there's a packet of consciousness or an idea, that idea is clothed with words at the level of the throat, goes through the heart, the central clearinghouse, and then arrives down here. This is your daily waking conscious intellect, which is yellow. And then you say, oh, I just thought a thought because I heard it in my mind clothed with words. But that same exact thought can be traveling in the opposite direction, impulse going upwards towards higher dimensional, less dense realms. You unclothe that thought. Take the word package off of the concept. Take the wrapping off the gift. And then you have just the gift. This is literally our gift. Just going to keep on emphasizing that every time. This part of our anatomy is incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable. It is just it's similar to our sexuality. It's related directly to creativity, directly to divinity, directly to our observership and creation of reality. It is a sacred portion of our anatomy, and that's why it has been harmed and degraded and exploited throughout human history. And I'll get into that too. So big takeaway that in order to perceive reality accurately, what we have is an interplay between these two aspects of self, the violet chakra and the indigo chakra. And when I first recorded the lessons, I've been on Earth for 18 years at this point, and I recorded those lessons about 6 years ago. So I was here for about 12 years. I mean, I certainly was aware of this, but I've had to learn to like shift my language that I use. I used to say that this is like a marriage between these two aspects of self, one of which is this horizontal whirling energy center and one of which is the vertical one. And then I had to learn like, okay, like when I say marriage or partnership or whatever, there's a lot of exploitation in partnership. There's a lot of exploitation in marriage. There's a lot of, like, basically what it means is the power structure. One person is more powerful than the other, or exploitation. Things are not equal. Things are not good. So I've had to learn to change my language. The whole idea is that there's supposed to be an ideal partnership, balanced partnership between these two aspects of self, and that you could consider one to be female and one to be male. But that's kind of like, Walter Russell from the 1800s talked a lot about female and male. And I'm not like let's not confuse the issue by using those descriptive terms too much, because that also comes down to our viewpoint of the sexes and of who is in charge and who tells who what to do. Let me use this as the example. Okay, get into the meat and potatoes here. The indigo chakra here, and we usually associate it with this portion of the forehead, like a dot that is right there, but you can see it actually relates to a vortex that has as its convergence point the deep interior of the human skull. Here's pointing on this drawing over here on the left, deep interior of the human skull. So it's not something that just floats on the surface of your forehead over here. Here's my eyeballs. This is something that is like a symbol of what is actually in the deep interior of your skull. So this blue aspect of consciousness, I like to call that your library card of the cosmos. That's why I just drew it like a little blue library card. And the we'll just make a big arrow, this violet chakra up above it, that's like the librarian of the cosmos. So this is supposed to be an interplay between these two aspects of your own self. So it's not like something else is telling you what to read in the library. This is very big. All of this is self-directed. Here's my spiel. My entire intention as I'm, giving you this information is for, like any good parent or any good teacher, I wish to empower you so that you are not reliant upon me. I do not want you to have to rely upon me. I don't want you to say, hey, Aurora, I wonder what blah, blah, blah looks like. Draw it for me. No, I don't want to have to do that. What I want to do is for you to say, I wonder what blah, blah, blah looks like. I will now cultivate my own inner vision and attenuate to what I want to learn about and touch on it myself. This is all about getting each person to be up to speed with their own library card so that you can self-educate. Everything that I speak about here in this class, I learned through having my own inner library card. So I did not learn any of these things. I didn't make these drawings by looking at the work of someone else or talking to another teacher or learning from an established guru or anything like that, even though those are all fine and noble things to do. I learned from seeing it myself. So it's like saying I didn't go to a museum. If I were an art student, and it's noble to do this. Sometimes you go to a museum and you see a student is in there with their easel and their little paint set, and they're painting a version of what the old masters painted, because you can learn a lot by doing that. But that's not what I did here. I didn't say, let me look at what other people have perceived and I'll kind of do sketches based upon that, and then I'll internalize it internally. What I did was I said, hey, I'm going to climb the mountain. That's like raising the energy up my spine. I'm going to activate my inner vision, and I'm going to look from the viewpoint. Here I'm looking out from the top of the mountain, and these paintings, this stuff that I paint, this is what I see from that viewpoint, and the viewpoint of pure abstraction. And then, of course, I translated the flapping of my moving mouth parts into these anthropomorphic concept packages that I can share, but really what I see are abstractions. And I encourage everyone to do all of the work that you need to do in order to climb the mountain. You will see the view, and then you will express it through your own personal filter of expression. If you're an artist, it could be through visual arts. If you're a musician, it might be through auditory arts. If you're a runner, it might be through running. If you're a healer, it might be through healing. So I will not limit you by dictating to you what your personal expression of abstract truth will be, just to say that whatever is your training, it might be technology. If you're an IT specialist and you perceive abstract truth, your abstract truth might come out on an anthropomorphic level in the form of software. P.S. I'm not a transhumanist. Let me drink more. So this is meant to be a positive, beneficial partnership between the librarian of the cosmos and you as the owner of the library card. But again, this is not something external to you. It's not like you're like, oh, I really, really want to read, the books of Narnia, but the stupid librarian keeps giving me Harry Potter. It's not like that at all. So in my own personal experience of activating my inner eye and then using my telescope/microscope in order to see and perceive these things, it was all done according to my course of studies was all like a personal nutrition system that was set up according to what I wanted, what I was interested in. So whatever I wanted to learn about, the librarian guided me towards. That is the abstract partnership that is supposed to be happening. So these two aspects of self are nested chakras that work and twist within one another. And you can see me in the little thumbnail making this gesture. So because we have the indigo chakra that spins around like this, and then we have the violet chakra that spins around like this. So these are just like two aspects of a compass, where you have the housing of the compass, like the outer perimeter within which the very fine, sensitive needle is perched, the magnetically sensitive needle. So the magnetically sensitive needle inside of a compass is analogous to the crown, the violet chakra, this this right here. Okay. And that is the guidance system, just like a magnet needle that determines where is magnetic north, except your violet chakra determines where is God? Where is God? Where is God pointing today? Up there, down there, down there, because God is not always in the same place. And when I speak about this, I'm not a biblical literalist, and I'm not speaking about the God of the Bible, of the Old Testament, or of the Torah. I'm not speaking about that level of anthropomorphic interpretation of God. I'm speaking about the abstract, this convergence point. It's like a place where you're trying to connect with, trying to get to, and it's not always in the same place. Sometimes it's over here, but then tomorrow it's over here. So your compass needle tells you where to tune in, where you're supposed to go. So that's the partnership that is supposed to happen. This very, very highly sensitive aspect of anatomy senses where's the divine, like homing in like a beacon, boop, 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 and then turns your gaze, your attention to tune in to that divinity. So, sorry, dog hair up my nose. This aperture on your body, it is your attention. So when I say, people call it the third eye, and it is like an eye, like, we have holes, apertures through which light enters. I'm going to go further into the second portion of level 1 is all about the pineal gland. We're going to talk about the pineal gland. I want to talk about this non-physical aspect of self first. So we're not in the objective materialist land yet. We're still in the energetic, purely vibration or frequency aspect of self, your time aspect of self. This is a tendril that reaches out. So let me write this. It comes from Greek. The Greek word is attenuos. Here we go. I hope you can read that. So the root word is attenuos from Greek, which means to reach out. And our word that we have today from that means attenuate, which is, I attenuate to something. It's where we get our word attention from. So when your teacher in class, in third grade or whatever, said, class, tap, 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 pay attention, what the teacher was saying was, class, please direct your perception, your organ of perception to me and pay attention. That's what, so the attention is literally a tendril that, that grows forward out of this portion of your body. So now I'm drawing like this little spiral. You can imagine it's like an elephant's trunk. It's like a long finger that reaches out from that aspect of yourself. And this, feature, it's a sensory organ. Whatever it touches, it's tasting. Think of it like, like a tongue. I'm tasting something. I'm tasting something. You can send this aperture through time. I can taste something that lived 500 years ago. I can taste something that will live in a very long amount of time. And just like tasting, you're ingesting small amounts of whatever you're touching. When you're sensing with this, you're tasting, you're ingesting small amounts of whatever you're touching. So don't touch poop. Don't taste poop. You're like, once you start to taste it, you're like, that's poop. Don't ingest more of it. This is literally the problem with what is happening in our world right now. And I'll get into the distortions at this level of perception too. But a big takeaway is whatever you are focusing your tendril of attention on, you are literally, it requires willpower or some payment and also some unconditional love. That is the energy that you're using to be able to look through this telescope, to look through this aperture, and what you are touching upon, you ingest and internalize and you become. This is very big. So I think Aldous Huxley wrote about this, and I'm not a huge proponent of his work, but he's one of the, psychedelic, grandfathers of the psychedelic movement. And I think he took mescaline or something like that. He spoke about his mind touching a flower. He was under the influence of the hallucinogen. He looked at a flower. He didn't just look at it with his eyes. He touched it with his mind. He became the flower. And that is the experience of using this tendril of attention to touch on something. It's a very different way of learning than to say, I went to the physical municipal library, got a book. I opened up the book, and with my physical eyes, I read all about what flowers are. That's not how you learn. When I wanted to learn about photosynthesis here in this time and place, I did not go to the library and get out a bunch of books and read them with my physical eyes. I touched on a plant with my attenuation and with my attention. I learned from the plant about what it was doing on the level of photosynthesis. I got information directly from the plant itself. So this is what I'm trying to say. Like, once you get your library card, you're empowered to self-educate. You don't need me or anybody else to come along and say, this is what is true, this is what is going on, this is blah, blah. You're awakened, you're empowered. And just like when, I don't know if you got a library card when you were a little kid or like in grade school or whatever, if I give you, here, kid, here's your library card. Where's a little thing I can pick up? Whatever, kid, here's your library card. Go read a book. And you're like, wow, you go into the library, and it's this big place. And there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of books, and not all of them are age appropriate. Like, you need some guidance about where do you start? What is the right thing for you? What is the right thing for you in your present level of development? And that's what this librarian is supposed to be about. So it's supposed to be not that this librarian is some horrible overlord, power tripping, bitch. That's like, I'm going to control you and limit you and only tell you this and only give you this. No. But I understand I'm on a traumatized planet that people look at the world in that way. So that's how I have to say this. That's what I'm talking like marriage. If I say like, oh, like the violet is like the woman and the man is supposed to protect the woman and the man is supposed to listen to, like, no, they're going to be like, no, I don't want to listen to my wife. You can understand all the internal grumbling that would come if I associated these with genders. Like, oh, the violet is more sensitive and needs to be protected. But it is. The violet, this is an aspect of your own self. Just like use your physical eye. You have the sensitive part of your eye where the light actually comes in. Like, you don't want to like stick stuff in your eye. It's sensitive. So what do? You have an eyelid that goes over your eye, and you have bones around your eye that protect it because your eye is sensitive. So this is like what we have with our energetic anatomy. This violet chakra is very sensitive. And it's also very wise or well-connected in terms of being the aspect of self that is closest to divinity. It's where we plug into the divine. So the message goes from God, from the divine, to the violet chakra, to the indigo chakra, and then, translates down to the physical world. I'm thinking of the line from an old movie, but I won't go into it. There's not supposed to be resistance. Because this is why I also would joke, like in marriage, it's like, my wife tells me I got to take out the garbage. I don't want to have to do that. Like, there's not supposed to be resistance. If your librarian tells you, like, hey, look over here, direct your attention over here. There's something interesting and nourishing for you to perceive. You're supposed to be like, good, I can't wait to do that. I'm going to listen. You should be compliant. Because literally that is your divine connection telling you, hey, here's what you need to learn about. So you gain your library card, and then you attach to or connect with or learn from the librarian that guides your self-education. And this is the journey of raising your energy from the red level. Let's go over to this picture. Wait, clear everything out. Boom. Clear everything out. I cannot do that. Go over to here instead. Boop, boop, boop. Sarah, the thing is not working. Make the thing work. No, let me exit the stop. Let me stop the share. Okay, go back. Hold on a second. Okay, and I'll get to your questions. Go back to what I'm trying to share over here. Go to this. This is what I want to show you. This image over here. So we are raising energy. Remember, energy comes from an abstract, from this white light, abstract impulse, right? And it comes from higher dimensional, less dense realms, circulates all the way through our various energy centers, and then comes into the physical realm. And then has its reverse journey where we come from the physical realm, spiraling upward, becoming more and more and more refined until we reconnect with the divine and send it all back to the higher dimensional, less dense realms. So when we get to this, we're raising our energy, we get to this level of having raised our energy. And how do you raise your energy? Aurora, how do you cultivate your energy? A lot of it has to do with like shutting up your mind, because the mind is constantly yakking away. And every time the mind makes a noise, that's like friction in an inefficient motor. Your motor is loud and inefficient. I can hear it bleeding away energy. It's not a perfect frictionless perpetual motion machine. So you get yourself into a meditative state, and you can do that through traditional meditation practices, or like what I do with my paintings, like I do, or various different practices that are more movement based. I don't necessarily sit doing nothing in order to still my mind. I usually occupy my mind with things. If you raise your energy just to, let me get to my notes too, just to this level, circle, spiral, all the way up. I got my energy up to here, but you have not yet gone up to here. So that's like saying I climbed the ladder, climbed up the mountain. I climbed up the mountain, but I got to here. I made it to base camp, but I didn't make it to the summit. I didn't get to the peak, the mountain peak. This is one of the most vulnerable places in terms of human perception and human development, before we even add in the distortions that were perpetrated upon humanity. So I'll get into those distortions too. Don't let me forget. But just the idea of raising your energy up to the point of getting your library card. Many evil magicians have done this. And when I say magicians, we're talking about using a type of technology. This is all spiritual technology. And I advocate for doing it without, when I say spiritual technology, let's say this is all your, spiritual anatomy that you don't need training wheels. You do not need anything other than your birthday suit in order to do these things. And I include within that the idea of having to take a magic molecule, something that makes you hallucinate, like LSD or magic mushrooms or even DMT. We literally produce those chemicals internally. And I'll talk about that when I talk about the pineal gland, which is why I might use up most of our time in order just to present level 1 today. When you raise your energy up to the level of having a library card, which again can be done through self-cultivation, natural means, meditation, and can also be done through taking psilocybin or something like that. It's a very precarious position because you get your library card and then it's like you walk into the giant library that contains all of the information of all time of everything. And where do you even begin? How do you even begin to understand and to organize and to collate together what you're seeing, what you're perceiving? And order of operations matters. If I write a book, I presume that my audience is going to read page 1 first and page 2 second, and then go through to page 100, not start off with page 1 and then read page 100 and then skip back to page number 59. When people have raised their energy to the level of getting a library card, but not yet consulting with the librarian, they often read the information of the cosmos out of order. And that is how many people are being misled. And when I say evil magicians, dark magicians, we're talking about people who are using this supernatural world or non-physical energy world to serve their self, serve their ego, as opposed to connect with the divine and play divine music, play the notes you're supposed to play. So again, this is not just here for your own personal entertainment and your own personal edification. Like, oh, look, I got my library card and now I can look at nothing but porn. No, I don't even want to have that as like a keyword in my videos. I'm sorry I said it. But yeah, no, how about violence? Oh, I can use it to look at the world's most violent and horrible and disturbing things. And some people do that. They think like, oh, it's somehow your job, like ethical responsibility to delve into all of the horrors and genocides of the world. Like, no, that exists. But like, if you're a little kid and you just got your library card, welcome to the library of the world. Your first book, I would not give you like War and Peace or, whatever the history of violence in America. Like, I would give you a book like Narnia. I'd be like, start off with this, a cool fantasy, or even a simple science book that would describe, the world to you in some way. So the librarian is infinitely wise and infinitely loving. This is big. This is why you don't have to fight against the librarian. You don't have to be like, oh, I want to read the stupid comic books and you want me to read, no, the librarian actually wants you to read the things that are the most essential for your development. When you read the right things with your inner library card. So first of all, you had to earn love just to be able to get your library card. When you read the right things, it gives you more love. This is big. So love is acceptance. This tone over here means that you have the emotional wherewithal to be able to deal with what you perceive, which is why you don't give little kids a book about all the history of violence in America, because they don't have the emotional fortitude to be able to deal with all of that crap. That would be the worst thing. Like if you opened your eye of inner vision and the first visions that you saw were all the horrible things that ever happened in humanity, like how do you process that emotionally? It is far too much for one person. So you need context. If the librarian is going to show you that, you need the cultural, energetic, social, religious, everything context to understand what that is, why you're being shown that, and then solutions. What do you do in response to all these things that you're being shown? So the librarian is very loving and appropriate in showing those things to us, to her students, to, who and what we are. So the most vulnerable thing is when humans raise their energy level to this point, but have not yet connected to their inner guidance that gives them holistic view and appropriate context to their insights. And when you have an insight, like you might see something about someone, it might be unkind. You might see that they are a criminal or a rapist or something that's not attractive. And the heart must be like stable enough to not be perturbed, to not wiggle waggle because he's like, oh, I just saw this thing about this guy over here. You guys stay stable. That's what love really is. It is a stance, like in some martial arts where you're like, I'm going to stand like this and then no opponent can knock me over. That's what love is. It is a stance of stability in the cosmos. And then the information that you learn when you're guided by the librarian makes that love even stronger. So when let's say if the librarian showed you something with your inner library card, read the book of whatever, some person, and then you find out that they were a rapist, if you are given the correct context, then your love becomes stronger. That doesn't mean that you want to hug and kiss a rapist. No. What it means is that you understand the context of their behaviors, why they did what they did, the reverberations of their behaviors, and also rectification, how to fix and heal all of this. So this is very big because when people start to become a healer, become a Reiki healer, whatever, I'm a hands-on healer, I'm a this, I'm a that, you start to understand that physical manifestation of disease is connected to spiritual and emotional imbalances, and you start to awaken your inner eye and you're like, wow, this guy got raped. Wow, this guy was a rapist. All of these things that are related to people's psoriasis and bunions and things that they come to you to be healed. So in order to do that work, you have to have a super strong foundation of love so that you can accept the things that you are seeing. So this is, again, the vulnerability of getting to this level of perception without yet getting to this level of perception. This is why training wheels, like taking molecules, are a bit dangerous. Taking these hallucinogenic molecules is like rocket fuel that totally blazingly opens up and sends lots and lots of energy to here without necessarily sending stability energy to here and guidance energy to here. And remember, this whole thing, the higher faculties, all works together. So this is why I'm not a huge proponent for the idea of like trip, hallucinate, all this stuff. Like I'm not against it, but like there are some teachers that are just like, yes, everybody should take this, everybody should take this. Like I'm much more cautionary about the idea of when and under what guidance and what the viewpoint that it actually shows you, because it can actually be detrimental to your self-development if you read the book of life out of order. So it's best to do all of those things in the proper context with guidance and connecting to your higher faculties. Let me just drink something here. And also, it's not practical to take a hallucinogenic molecule every day. Like you can't eat LSD for breakfast every day. No, that is not practical. So what everybody needs to do is understand LSD is like the training wheels or something that you start off with, and then you discard that because you don't need that because you built the muscles to be able to do it on your own. Also, this is our birthright. This is not something that we're supposed to have to take a magical molecule so that I can see through time. P.S. This is how you see through time. We're all supposed to have a windshield on our car that we're driving through time so that we can see where the heck we're going, where the F we're going. We were not meant to come here riding blind and crashing into the membrane of death over and over. So we're supposed to have higher faculties. It's our birthright. We're supposed to be able to see. And the reason why we haven't been able to see is because we were genetically degraded. So this is a reawakening of our basic higher faculties. Let me go back to my face. Hold on a minute here. Okay, so yes, this is I'm looking at my notes. This is the eye that we use to see through time. Let's talk about this. The chakras of the body. So I said that we are raising our energy through these various, energy centers or chakras of the body. It's a journey that comes from the white light at the top through all of our various energy centers like interlocking gears, and then from the red physical world back upwards towards the divine, from the general to the specific. And this journey from the red up to the violet, from lower up to higher, is analogous to the levels of human development that we've been going through in human history, the ages of man, ages of humanity. So, and some of people associate these ages of humanity with like astrological ages, like, the age of Pisces or the age of Aquarius, in descriptive terms of what is the major constellation influencing Earth at the time. I'm not sure if Chiqui's going to jump up. That's why I was moving my little equipment. So we've been through red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then around the year 0 of our present calendar system, we got up to this level in terms of the age of humanity. It's the age of Pisces. You going to jump on up? Age of Pisces. This is the Pisces fish. So we're going to get into the Jesus Christ Roman Catholic religion personified by the fish as a symbol. You going to jump on up, girl? Age of Pisces, in terms of its value system, is personified by external authority figure. The idea that there's supposed to be a king or a leader or some, usually a male, that is your guide and tells you what to do. Like your father figure, that is your father. That's the level of development. So it's like humanity went through thousands of years at this level, thousands of years at this level, moving through levels of refinement on a larger social context level. Like, how do humans view each other, view their connection to the earth, view their connection to the stars? So we got up to the level of here in terms of human development. And we've been at that level for approximately the past 2,000 years. This is the age of Pisces. And this has not been a very peaceful era, even though the teacher, and I'll get into my whole understanding and description of the Christian religion too, but let's just say that the teachings of the religion are about peace. However, the teacher that was here 2,000 years ago created reverberations for 2,000 years that were not peaceful reverberations. It's because of this. Having the library card, having some inner perception, but it's coming through the anthropomorphic filter. So everything is being interpreted on the level of humanity and not being guided by the higher connection to the divine that says, hey, look over here and understand the world through this viewpoint. Now look over here and understand the world through this viewpoint. And this is very, very big because I have to get into the anatomical aspects of Christ consciousness. So first of all, this portion of your body, I need to skip around a little bit. So let's talk about your pineal gland. It is an actual gland on your body. So there's a distinction now to be made between the pineal gland and the chakra that emits, that is emitted from the pineal gland. And the difference between these two things is like saying the projector, physical projector, like let's draw an old-fashioned, here's a reel-to-reel like movie projector where you got movie on a film that goes around these little things over here. And then here's a light bulb. I'm going to draw a little light bulb with light coming off of it. Boop, those are little pieces of light, right? And the light comes through a lens. This is the lens here, and then gets projected onto a screen. And here's the movie screen where you see, oh, look, I'm a person. That person has a very strangely shaped face. And there's my arms and my legs. Okay, so this apparatus, the movie projector, is your pineal gland. And this over here, the image being projected on the movie screen, is reality. And we could also consider that to be your imagination or your non-physical perception. So this over here, this is like your chakra. This is the non-physical aspect that is projected from the physical aspect. So in terms of how science would understand this and objective materialism, at the end of your life, if you dead, and if I had to cut open your head, and we can see there is a thing inside of your head that is called the pineal gland. But what is not present after you're dead is the image that is projected from the thing inside of your head because you are dead. So now I will draw for you what the thing inside of your head looks like. This is your pineal gland. Rather exaggerated drawing of one. It looks a lot like a regular eyeball. First, I'll draw a regular eyeball. Here's a regular eyeball. Here is the cornea and iris and lens over here. And then back here is your retina, where light comes in through the front, through that little aperture, hits the retina, and then goes along the optic nerve to the brain, where it causes neural stimulation and you are interpreting the photons that stimulated your retina. This is your pineal gland. It does not have an aperture. There's no hole. It does not have physical light that comes inside of it, but it does have a retina. It does have the receptor cells that are similar to your physical eyeballs. And this over here, this is a nerve. It's actually a branched nerve that goes into and connects with the rest of your brain. This is a camera that doesn't have an aperture. How does it get light? The light comes into it through thought waves, through non-physical stimulation of this retina over here. The imagination reality creation mechanism projects reality. I'll say it again. So this is like your movie projector that you use to create reality. It's your imagination and your capacity to envision that which is not directly in front of you. So let's do a little brief exercise. If I say to everyone who's on board here, please imagine or envision a purple cupcake. All right? You could see it with your mind's eye. Where's the purple cupcake? The purple cupcake is being projected here as imagination in reality. What is doing the projecting? What is doing the thinking? What is doing the creation of that image is your pineal gland. And none of us actually, if anybody's actually eating a purple cupcake right now, like I will pay you money because this is some kind of like amazing synchronicity. But most of us are not eating purple cupcakes right now. And so this is something that is purely imagined, purely envisioned. And this is something that is a capacity that is magical, and that is, something that only humans and other like very special creatures have. Not every creature has the capacity to imagine or envision items that are not in its immediate presence or that it has never seen before. So let's say I've never seen a flying rainbow lasagna before. No one ever invented it or created it. I imagined it. That's a magical activity. And then from that imagining, I was able to actually physically sculpt it. So think about anything that humans do. The first time humans ever made a shirt, the first time humans ever made anything, what they had to do first was imagine it, project it into reality, and then create it as something in reality. So there are some other very sophisticated organisms on this planet, like dolphins and elephants and blue whales, and even, wolves and dogs and cats. Like they all have this imagination capacity, but it's not all expressed in the same way. But that's a big takeaway. So I also want to share the idea that each one, so I've just described, you have a apertureless eye in the center of your brain. And this eye is stimulated not by physical photons, but by neurological internal stimulation by thought waves. And this eye is like one retina in the eye of a much larger being. And I'll go back to my face. So each one of us has this little receptor cell inside of us. And P.S., your pineal gland is a vestigial outgrowth in terms of evolutionary biology from the reptilian aspect of self. No, Aurora, I'm not a Draco. I'm a Pleiadian. I'm an Arcturian. I'm really good. I'm not slow down, everybody. It's okay. I'm not saying you're a draconian reptile. No, what I'm saying is that in our biology of our human bodies, we have different aspects of self, and some of them came from the evolutionary foundation stages when we came from reptiles. For example, the brain stem is called the reptilian brain, and it involves just keeping your heart beating, keeping your body breathing, regulating your blood supply, blood pressure, and how hot your body is, and also eating and procreating. Like, can I eat something? Can I procreate with that thing? And I got to stay alive. It's like basic foundation staying alive stuff. And we also have in our brain. And so in the structure of our brain, we've got the reptile aspect of self, mammalian aspect of self. This is the cortex that grows on top of that. And then the cerebral cortex, which is on top of the mammalian aspect of self, which is what we define as the human level of thought. And all of those levels together, they're like a chord. I'm playing all three notes together. Then they all make up our present level of mentality and development. Inside of our brain, we also have vestigial traces of our reptilian heritage. So reptiles, like an iguana, if you have a pet iguana, and you look on its head, it has a large scale on the top of its skull that is kind of semi-translucent, And that is the reptile's ability to sense light. That it can, not just through its eyes, but it can sense sunlight and heat, and it controls the reptile's circadian rhythm, waking and sleeping, and other body processes. We have that too. So first of all, your pineal gland is connected to your waking and sleeping cycles and your ingestion of light. And we're getting into light eating here now. Your pineal gland produces 3 basic hormones. Melatonin, which is part of regulation of circadian waking and sleeping cycles. Melanin determines darkness of skin, and again is produced in response to light. So when people know this now from looking at their computer. If you're looking at your computer too much at night and you can't fall asleep, it's because you are ingesting too much blue light that is fooling your brain and your pineal gland because it thinks that it's still light outside and you should stay awake. So yes, if you organize my thoughts before I talk. The connection of light to your pineal gland and the hormones that are produced. If you go out in the sun, you're like, this sunlight feels so good. It's falling on my skin and my epidermis. And your pineal gland responds by saying, hey, I don't want your epidermis to get burned to a crisp. I'm going to produce melanin, which is how you get tan. And then your skin gets melanin and you don't get too much sunlight going inside of you. So we have a basic biological connection to the world of light, not just our physical eyeballs, but the structure in the deep interior of your brain known as your pineal gland. And what the third thing that your pineal gland does is it creates DMT, dimethyltryptamine. This is why I said you don't need training wheels. You don't need to take an external molecule. You literally have all of that as an endogenous, internally, naturally occurring brain chemical, DMT. So if you haven't already watched it or read it, there's an excellent book called The Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman that's all about dimethyltryptamine. And the basics of this are that when the human fetus is gestating in the womb, at a certain point, the brain gets to a level of complexity and development where it has a pineal gland and it is able to produce DMT. And DMT is a molecular portal. I'm a molecular doorway through which your consciousness can enter your body. Your brain creates DMT. It's a portal. Your consciousness comes into your body and lives here for however many years. And then when you die, your pineal gland also releases huge amounts of DMT, which is a molecular portal, which is the exit out of your body. Okay. So that is also a profound connection to light and consciousness. Now I want to talk about the Christian religion. And this is big because I know that when I use words like God or Christ or Jesus, that this is coming through the cultural anthropomorphic filter in this time and place. So I've had to learn how to use my language very carefully in order to get across the right information that I'm actually trying to say. So first of all, my understanding and what I'm describing here, in no way am I trying to force my ideas upon anyone else. And I want you to know that my viewpoint, I can accommodate the biblical literalist viewpoint. So if you read the Bible and you say these are the literal words of God, and I literally believe in the stories that are written in this Bible, and I literally believe in a personified man with a beard as a Christ figure, that is actually not, I'm not going to reject you. I'm not going to say, that's it, get out of the class. I can't even have a conversation with you. No. And actually my perspective can accommodate your perspective. So I would also ask, and I'm always really clear about this. I'm not making fun of or mocking or scorning earth human religions at all, especially when I'm talking about the flaws, my perceived flaws in Christianity. So please do not be insulted. I'm not here to insult anybody's faith. And mostly I appreciate when people have a faith, even if it is like you're looking at the world, even if it's through a filter that is not quite clear. And maybe you might not be seeing everything exactly with pure clarity. I appreciate the intention to try to rise higher, the intention to be more divine, to be more loving, to be more everything, because that's the good stuff of the Christian religion as it is promoted by the church on earth. The idea of loving kindness and healing and non-familial family member, like being the family of humanity, taking care of one another. Those are all very beautiful aspects of Christianity, which, can also be understood as like secular humanism. Like, you take care of other people and you take care of the place. So it's not only related to, something that is a religious motivation. So my understanding of Christ is that Christ is a consciousness. Now people will say, Aurora, now you are a new age charlatan because you're talking about Christ consciousness. So this is the issue, that biblical church-going literalists might say, oh, you're becoming wishy-washy by saying, oh no, Christ is just a consciousness and it's not an actual man. And then how can we have justice or rectification? Because a lot of people believe that the only solution to our present levels of difficulty or constraint is the return of an actual bearded man as a savior. So now I need to go back into age of Pisces and age of Aquarius. So this age of Pisces lasted roughly for the past 2,000 years. We count our calendar from the year 0, the birth of the historical person that we are calling Jesus Christ, but I got to get into the use of the words more effectively there. And what we are heading out of the age of Pisces, the Piscean age, and we are entering age of Aquarius. I won't sing the whole song. Aquarius. Okay. The age of Aquarius is the transcendence of the age of paternal, external authority figures. So for thousands of years, we have lived in this, it's like a level of development, like when you're a teenager, when it's like, mommy and daddy tell me what to do, and whether I'm allowed to have the car keys, and whether I'm allowed to do this, and whether I'm allowed to do that. And then at a certain point, you graduate, you get to the next level of development where it's like, no one is telling you what to do anymore. That is what the age of Aquarius is. It is graduation from the level of requiring an external authority figure, an external God, a Jehovah, a man in the sky with a beard, that's like a father figure that watches you all the time, judges you all the time, and tells you whether you're good or bad and whether you just get into heaven. That's the idea of the age of Pisces. And our levels of government also reflected that, the idea that we're supposed to have a secular father figure, big brother, who runs our country, collects our taxes, tells us what to do. You know, they're there, dear. You don't worry about these foreign wars. I'll take care of everything in Syria. You just work hard, shop at the mall, and give me your tax dollars. And we've been living under that, level of governmentalism for about during the age of Pisces too. When we graduate on every level. We graduate and we say, I am now taking personal responsibility. I listen to the God that is divine connection inside of me. Librarian telling me what to do, what to think, how to perceive the world, what are my actions, as opposed to, I do this because the 10 commandments or the 613 commandments of the Torah. So Christians have it easy. You only have 10 commandments. Jews have literally 613 rules in the Old Testament or the Torah that they're supposed to follow. And this is the whole idea of, ethics. Like if you don't have an inner compass, a moral compass that tells you what to do, or if you are not, if you don't have inner tone, like you don't know what to play, you can't read the musical score of the cosmos, you can't listen to the band, you don't know what to play, you have to have someone put your fingers on the keyboard and say, play those notes and just be good. That's it. Like we're not even going for you having to have like your own metacognitive understanding of what you're doing. Like just go through the paces, just be good, which is kind of a condescending and infantile attitude. Where I'm saying to you, basically, if I say that to you, don't learn music theory. Don't learn how to listen to the rest of the band. Don't learn how to reach inside and find the right notes. I'm going to just put your hands on the keyboard and press your fingers and tell you that you're doing the right thing and you're a good person. That's the old way of religion. Follow these commandments. Listen to what the priest tells you. Listen to what the church tells you. Listen to what the government tells you. Put your fingers here and play this note when I tell you to, and that makes you a good person. That's the age of Pisces. We are now exiting that age and we are entering into the age of Aquarius, where we all have reawakened higher faculties. We're not only up to this level, we're up to this level. And that means that we have a librarian that educates us on an internal level and guides our behavior and tells us not only like put your fingers here and play this when I tell you, but here's how you know where to put your fingers. Here's how you can read your own music. Here's how you can write your own music. Here's how you can have a rapport with the rest of the band in a much more effective way. Okay, wait, let me drink a little bit more water. Let me look at my notes. So we are coming into this age of self-responsibility. And when we're in the age of self-responsibility, we don't have to have government anymore, but until we get to that point, like it's good to have some rules preventing people from being bloodthirsty maniacs. Wait. Okay, so the religion. Okay, let's talk about this. So it is my conception, my understanding, and my perception here that there was an actual teacher 2,000 years ago, avatar. So this word avatar comes from Sanskrit, avatar. Let me go over here. Do you think? I'll just write it out for you. I think I can write it. A-V-A-T. This is so hard. A.
This is in bottom.
R. Avatar. Avatar. This comes from Sanskrit, meaning one who has come across waters. The waters that you come across are cosmic waters. So it's the idea of being a container for consciousness on a divine level, an avatar. This is also relates to the ancient Greek definition of what it is to be a hero. So in ancient Greece, a hero was not just someone who was muscular and carried a sword. A hero is a container for divine consciousness, okay? So it is my understanding that there was a historical being who was an avatar for Christ consciousness. Now I have to explain to you this whole idea of energetic anatomy. So you've got this little, opening here, and that is like one retina cell on a very, very large being. It's the idea of a mosaic eye, a composite eye. If you look at so our eyes are not composite eyes. I have one lens here and one lens here. If you look at an insect eye, it's like a jewel. It is composite. It has many hundreds or thousands of lenses on its eye. And what the little tiny bee brain does, it takes all of those different facets of perception and focuses them together into one viewpoint of reality. This is what Christ consciousness does. No, this is not the Borg. No, this is not a hive mind. This is individuation and nested consciousness within the complexity of a larger being. Just like within my being, I'm a larger, complex being. I have a tooth cell that is individuated and different from my heart cell. They look different, they act different, they do different stuff, but they work together as part of the whole, okay? So just because you are a part of Christ consciousness as one of these little sensor cells on a big giant eyeball does not mean that you lack individuality. No, it does not mean that you walk like robots in lockstep, synchronization. No, it's just like being in a band. It doesn't mean that you all play the exact same note at the exact same time. You have individuation. So it is my understanding that Christ consciousness is a galactic presence. And it's not only on this planet. And it doesn't only involve humans. It involves many organisms on many diverse planets in many different times and places. Those are all little tiny retina cells that all add up to the mosaic image of this much larger being that is perceiving through us. So just like we have a sensory organ that reaches out and it touches on things and it tastes things and it sends back information to us, we reach out with our minds and our perception, sense things, touch on things, and send that energy back as one facet of a much larger mosaic image to this larger meta being. Meta meaning overarching, umbrella overarching consciousness. That is Christ consciousness. So I'm making a distinction. I don't know how the New Age defines it, but that is how I define Christ consciousness. And that there have been many different containers or avatars for this consciousness throughout human history. So the one that's known as Jesus Christ, we're going to get into this, was originally a historical teacher named Yeshua or Joshua. And there have been other cultural teachers too. These are the rock stars that we know their names. Like we know the name Jimi Hendrix, but we don't know the name, like whatever, like Joe Smith, or he never made it to the history books, but he was an awesome musician. So there have been many avatars of Christ consciousness that have come here into this world and have embodied this and been sensory organs for this much larger being. They never wrote a book about. They never made a movie about. And then we never found out about them. But they are really, really good musicians. So that's a big one. So one of the famous avatars that we know about from the Hindu tradition is called Krishna, K-R-I-S-N-A. This is where we get Hare Krishna from. And he is associated with this aperture on the body, and there are similar stories about his embodied experience growing up. Born of a virgin, performed miracles growing up, did a bunch of important things, and they didn't actually die, just ascended. That's the basic template for the avatar of Christ consciousness. So there's Krishna in the Hindu tradition. There is Daganawida in the Iroquois tradition. I want to say Dagwanawida. There's different spellings for it, and they have mostly an oral tradition. So this is from the Iroquois. Again, born of a virgin, miracles in birth, peacemaker. This is where we get the Iroquois Confederacy from, upon which our United States Constitution is based. And Daganawida also gentled Hiawatha. Hiawatha lived in the woods. He was in grief from having his family like killed or murdered in a battle, and he was like cannibalistic. And Daganawida went out to this guy who was like a crazy guy living in the forest who ate people, and gentled him and got him back into his humanness, and then, you know, helped to create the Iroquois Confederacy. And then Daganawida ascended, transcended. He didn't die. He just went up in a blaze of glory. And then, you know, we know the story of, well, let me drink. A story of Yeshua. It's very famous. However, it's been co-opted. So this is the cautionary tale that I say with no condescension towards anyone who has the faith. And I'm happy and proud that you have a faith and that you are looking for something higher. But yeah, it's my understanding that the actual person who lived and their actual life story was co-opted, changed, and distorted in its presentation by the Roman Catholic Church. Changed the name of the guy from Yeshua or Joshua to Jesus, and in so doing, changed a lot of the, meat and potatoes of the story, created an astral presence. What do I say when I say astral? I mean purely mind created. So there was an original person who had experiences. That person is no longer here. Then let's make a story about that person, and that story is a fantasy. And the fantasy itself can take on an embodiment and a sense of life if enough people believe in the fantasy. And unfortunately, the fantasy is a very unhealthy fantasy, where it talks about the necessity of suffering, the necessity of death, that in order to find immortality, you must first die and then somehow be revivified into immortality. And none of those things are accurate. None of those things are healthy. So that's why I make this crucial distinction between Yeshua, the teacher, and Christ consciousness and the abstraction, and the Roman Jesus and the Roman interpretation and fantasy story of who and what that person was, and the value system that they promote, and what they, because that story was used as a control story. Let me drink a bunch of water here. The story was taken from someone who was a great teacher, who is here to help humans to become more free, and instead it was used in order to reduce human freedom and increase human suffering. So that is the challenge of what is happening at the level of Christ consciousness on this planet right now. Literally, there is a mind virus. The same, like I'm pointing at my computer right now, the same way your computer can get a virus. How does your computer get a virus? Well, your computer connects, like let's say that this is my computer. My computer's going to connect to a website that's got viruses. Like whatever, you tried to watch some kind of a pirated video of your favorite TV show, and instead of watching your TV show, you downloaded a bunch of viruses, and now your whole entire system does not work right anymore. This is what happened at the level of our perception. On a planetary level, all of humanity, all of our chakras up here got a mind virus. And the mind virus is all about the events of the crucifixion, basically the story that is told to us from the Roman Catholic Church. Who was Jesus? What are the events of the crucifixion? The whole idea of you being a sinner, and the mythology that there has to be this human sacrifice in order for you to be saved. All of that is mind virus. And it is mind virus that is transmitted not only orally from carrier to carrier, like I read the Bible and I believe these thoughts, and then I told those thoughts to my babies, and then they tell them to their babies. Not only through that, but also through your library card. That when you first raise your energy and start to open up this eye, you are looking through smudgy glass. And if we're also projecting reality, what is happening is, go back to my whiteboard, do your thing. This. I'm going to draw a smudge on the glass. Here's a big red smudge on the lens of this projector. And if I put a smudge on the lens of the projector, guess what? There ends up being a smudge on the reality that is projected from that lens. So if you put a mind virus over here, everything that comes out of that mind is infected or infested with that mind virus. And the mind virus is basically the necessity of death. You know, this whole idea of a human sacrifice must be made, death is inevitable, suffering is inevitable, this guy died so that you guys can somehow, you know, live eternally. Let me go through all of my things to make sure that I got everything important. So vulnerability at this level, but not yet at this level. Rectification when you break through this level and connect to this level, right? You're like, oh, I've had my library card for 2,000 years. I've been reading all this crazy crap and thinking all these things. This is why, let me take off my jacket. I'm getting all nice and warmed up in here. This is why, you know, when people have a spontaneous awakening of their kundalini or energy rising up their spine, they often have a flash of insight where they're like, I'm Jesus. And the truth is, you are Christ. You are an avatar of Christ. And when we connect this and this to the divine, we become these awakened avatars. And this, to my understanding, is what we are supposed to be doing right now at this moment in human history. This is the age of Aquarius. So we are transcending the control structure, the limitations that come from the mind virus that was implanted in us when we were vulnerable. Remember, I said this at the beginning of this broadcast, and I think I'm just slumping off into level 2. You attenuate, you send out your tendril of attention. It's a sensory organ. It touches on things. And what you touch on, you taste. And what you taste, you become. Right? If I'm touching on the information from the Roman Catholic Church about who and what Jesus is, I'm touching it, I'm tasting it, I'm becoming it. That's how you get the virus. That's how you get the virus. But of course, like any virus, there's the antidote, the rectification to that. And the rectification happens when you exit the anthropomorphic level. This is seeing on an anthropomorphic, human level of interpretation, and you transcend and you go and you connect up to here, and then everything looks like this. It doesn't look human anymore. And then you see what's really going on. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not going in the direction I thought I was going. Everything is different. And that's how you rectify and transcend the mind virus. So it means going beyond the level of the human level of interpretation into pure abstraction. So if you have not yet climbed the mountain, if you have not yet activated your inner telescope, your inner microscope, if you don't know what this experience feels like, here's what it feels like. First of all, people talk about opening your third eye. To me, it does not feel like anything opens. It's not like, something is like this and something is like this. It feels like I focus on something with my mind and I can understand it. When I attenuate, when I reach out with my attention, I'm focusing my mind on it. So if I want to learn about a flower, I focus my mind on a flower. How do you focus your mind on a flower? Well, if I say everybody, hey, envision that purple cupcake right now. Focus your mind on the purple cupcake that you're imagining. That's how you do it. It is all an internal experience. So I, focus on the things that I wish to learn about, and the information that comes to me does not come through a narrator, through verbalized thought. There is not like when I'm reading a book where the book says, let me tell you all about what flowers are and what they're made from and where they come from. It is not a verbalized experience. It is the experience of pure insight, understanding on a level far beyond words, with no human level of interpretation. But I'm still looking at a flower, which is an actual, three-dimensional object. I'm not looking at something purely abstract. I know that I have activated this level of my inner perception when I'm not, not really looking on this level, when the world looks like patterns to me. So this is a big, big difference. When you're operating just on the level of those abstract patterns, that's like looking at the musical score of the cosmos. There is no wiggle room. There is no room for interpretation. It's like the cosmos says the note is C. That's it. That's the note. That is the note. There is no interpretation. There is no wiggle room. That is what it is. Don't fight with me about this. But when you're on the level down here, you're like, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this in this context, or it could be this and this. And that's why the whole idea of moral relativism and, the satanic Luciferian, it uses logic and reason in a twisted way to try to take you away from the certainty of what you perceive on an abstract level. So really what we're doing in human history, in human context and perception right now is healing this human anthropomorphic lens of interpretation. It's not supposed to be a smudgy lens. It's supposed to be a perfectly clear optical device that allows the human level to be divine. Big, right? Very big, because that's the whole idea of the Christian religion. Allowing the human level to be divine because you're all sinners and you have to this and that, blah, blah. No, get rid of that whole anthropomorphic interpretation. What we are doing is like, here's a scarf. Here, a scarf. The scarf is cleaning. I'm Windexing the lens, cleaning the lens of interpretation. I'm not getting rid of the lens. I'm not saying this lens is smudgy. I'm going to throw it out the window because I hate this lens. No, I'm saying, hey, this lens is smudgy. I'm Windexing the lens. I'm cleaning the lens. And now we have a nice, perfectly clear optical device through which to express the truth of pure abstraction. And that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be those perfectly clear optical devices that express the truth of Christ. And when we do that, first of all, you don't just do it as your own private musician. You're part of a band. The band is Christ consciousness. Now, wait. Let me make sure that I did all of my, okay. So yes, Christ is an extraterrestrial. It is a non-terrestrial presence, although it is active on Earth. I'm here, you're here, my dog is here, redwood trees are here. They're all imbued with Christ. So Christ is a part of this planet. Christ is a part of our sun and our stars. Christ is a part of all organisms everywhere. Christ is consciousness. Every place where there is consciousness, that is where Christ is. So this is a big distinction to make, because there's a big, a trope, like a meme, like a way of looking at reality. Space Jesus, the whole idea that, like, a big giant alien head with big, black eyes, that's who and what, the human avatar was an avatar for. Like the idea that a human being was somehow a container for a clank metal alien that said, "Oh, I like your body. I want to get inside of you and teach humanity how to be better people." And that's not what the presence that went into the human being is or was. And please don't let clank metal aliens come inside of you because they wear a mask and they say, "I'm a Jesus alien and I want to come inside of you and take over your life and teach humanity through you and make the world a better place." That is not right. That is total exploitation. So this is really, really big. The original invaders of our planet came to our planet like in the time of Atlantis, when we all had wonderful, perfectly calibrated, perfectly clear optical systems. And they, smashed them and smudged them and made them so that we could not perceive clearly, and then filled us with a lot of nonsense that was completely disempowering. So to clarify, the end result is not, each one of us becomes an avatar for some clank metal alien that comes inside of us and works us like robots and tells us what to do. No, the idea is that we all awaken our higher faculties, reconnect to our own divinity, and become, super beings, badasses, like literally like Superman. You can fly. This is so threatening to the control and power structure. It is so threatening to the clank metal using aliens. They do not want you to do it. So that's why this whole religious control structure was created. It's why the mind virus was created. So, okay, let me look at my notes and then make sure I did everything and then get to questions. Okay, so our religious traditions of the past 2,000 years that are severely out of balance, that have to do with males telling females what to do. So just a few examples would be like in the Catholic Church, the idea that only males can be priests and that they run the power structure, and that females can only be nuns who are, utilized, victimized, or exploited by the church on almost every level. And Buddhism is set up in a very similar way. There's some teachings for one of the types of Buddhist schools, I want to say Theravada, that says that females cannot reach enlightenment, that only males can reach enlightenment. So there's separated monasteries for males and females, and the male monasteries get more stuff, better stuff, because they got a chance for enlightenment. In the female monasteries, the nuns are kind of like second-class citizens. They don't really get that much. Islam, the iniquity there, not only male priests only, and females are owned like property, and there is child marriage and selling of females. So all of this is a outgrowth and a representation of the age of Pisces, the idea of the Father in the sky, a man being in charge and creating a religion where the man is in charge and the man tells the woman what to do. So in rectification here, does it mean the woman becomes in charge? No, what happens is there's this partnership. So there's this idea of the violet chakra telling the indigo chakra what to do in a loving partnership. But it's been very difficult for me to get that across in the society because the society is very challenged on that level. Okay, observership. Let's talk about this. Collapsing the fifth dimensional and higher waves of possibility into the physical reality of embodied stuff that we feel, that happens at the level of this indigo Christ chakra. All of this reality creation, the capacity to imagine, your juice for imagining the world, your ovens in front of your eyes for cooking the dough of reality. All of this happens at the level of Christ consciousness. All of this happens at this level. It is an incredibly crucial, critical aspect of anatomy. And now you can understand why it was hijacked with the mind virus. Because if you put a smudge on the lens, you put a mind virus in at this level here, then all of the dough that you make for reality is infected with the virus, and all of the bread that you bake from that dough is infected with the virus. And this is what we've had for many thousands of years. And now it is time to rectify all of this. So, okay, I want to make sure I got all of my, I think I got everything good. Thank you for letting me, because I've had a lot of notes because there's a lot of moving parts on this and I didn't even get through everything. Wait, let me drink water. So this is the level 1 teaching for lesson 8. It's so worth delving into. I hope that everybody who has access to the materials will do so, because there's actually even more that I didn't get to in this presentation. Okay, so let me go on back over here. Okay, Pedro. Pedro says, when I reach that level and get my library card, the first book I plan to read is the library guide on how to use it and maybe how to levitate. Very, very good. So I'm certain that it's like having a personal trainer. When you get your library card, or when you reach the librarian, that you have a personally created nutrition and exercise program that is just for you. Some people are too skinny, they need to eat more. Like, you need to eat more. Some people are too fat, they need to eat less. So it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. That's a big takeaway. And all of this is, again, not a sky father that tells you, do this, now read this. No, you're not good enough, I send you to hell. No, it is your aspect of self. That's why you don't have to fight against it. You don't have to be like, oh, I want to eat candy, but mommy's making me eat vegetables. No, it's not mommy making you eat vegetables. It's you. It's you making you eat vegetables because you know internally that candy is not good for you. So this is also a big takeaway. The librarian begins to guide the books that you take out. You're not allowed to just look at comic books. You got to read stuff that actually educates you. You got to read stuff you got to eat food that's actually nourishing. And you can do it joyfully, because I love learning about how does photosynthesis work? How do flowers work? How do you'll know that you're doing it right, because all of the nutrition that you're eating, you'll be like, that tastes the best. It's exactly what I wanted to eat at that exact moment. So you can trust in your own higher guidance is going to give you the exact inspiration that you need in order to nourish you on your journey and guide you in the right direction. And once again, when you get up to speed with this and you're eating through here, it makes your heart stronger. It makes your journey better and faster. You get better by doing this. So reaching this, it's also like getting an income. It's like you're not starving and broke anymore. Now all of a sudden, you got income, you can do stuff with your income. But again, you get guided by your own higher self librarian to tell you what to do. More questions. Salu says, it's a developmental process. It takes energy and persistence to go through the divine portal. That is exactly right, Salu. Thank you for that. And then you can also understand why lazy people would want to do the quick fix. This self-cultivation and hard work is boring. Give me the liposuction. They're like, I don't want to have to run on a treadmill. Suck out the fat, do what I have to do. So that's why some people are give me the magical molecules, give me a magical elixir. How about a magical helmet? I'll put on a magical helmet and that will amplify my mind waves, and then everybody will be able to hear my mental music, even though it's super crappy. Like, this is, not what I advocate. Gala, says Pedro, if you're in the library and you have a card, I think would already be levitating around in the library. So here's my understanding of that. You would only learn how to levitate if that was the right nutrient or the right muscle building practice for you in your development. So there's a word in India.
Lemonade, you might say.
Siddhi, Siddhi. It's the idea of incidental magical power that comes on the journey towards enlightenment. And yogis, or the self-cultivators in the Far East, they're smart enough to know, like, go for the gold, go for the diamond. Don't go for the fool's gold and the cubic zirconium. So the ability to levitate, that's not the same as enlightenment. That's not the same as realizing that you're God and being divine. Like, oh, I'm floating around, but I still got tons of mental issues and I don't know anything and I'm not treating people well. This is the thing, that each one of us should focus our mental energy, our self-development, our cultivation on freedom, on transcendence, on superseding these levels of limitation, not just on being super powerful in levels of constraint. You want to get out of the prison, not just become like the biggest, meanest guy in prison who can beat everybody else up and, like, be empowered in prison. You're still in prison. That's not what you want. So this is about transcending the ego. If you're like, oh, I want to activate my library card and I want to get all sorts of magical powers. And then I want to be able to go on like Star Search and do magical tricks for all of the judges. And they'll be like, press the button and be like, we love you. We'll pay you $1 million. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And you're not supposed to sell this. I started out this presentation by saying that this is like the most magical part of your anatomy, as magical as your sexuality, and special and intimate and sensitive. It's not for sale. It should not be for sale. Just like access to your sexuality should not be for sale. In this time and place, unfortunately, many people commodify their sexuality out of necessity or, convenience. You should not commodify your inner seeing. So this also means if someone says to you, hey, I'll pay you $5, look into your crystal ball and tell me my future, you're supposed to be like, no, that's not what I want to do with my, library card. Like, it's basically like someone else saying, hey, I don't have a library card. Will you go into the library and check out a book for me and read it and tell me what that information says? Be like, get your own library card. Like, why don't you have one? You're supposed to get one. You're supposed to do it. So this is a big change.
I already talked about it.
Giving people personal readings. And again, I'm not judging, casting aspersions or whatever. I'm saying, like, this is backwards from what you're supposed to be doing. Someone says, like, because let's say someone wants to know, who was I in a past life? Or even, what should I do with my life? Like, you're supposed to be able to look through your own windshield while you drive down the road, not have someone else directing your life for you. And most people that are selling their insight are looking on an anthropomorphic level, meaning they're not looking on the purely abstract level, meaning they are giving you distorted guidance at best. So I really would say to everyone, please do not modify or, sell access to your insight. Your insight is for you to learn and grow personally. Now look at me. I use my insight to make paintings. And then I sell those paintings. That's perfectly fine. That is acceptable. I make my paintings into shirts. You can do that. There's no problem with that. But I learned all of these things from insight because I wanted to. My librarian was like, this is the book for you. And I'm like, this is great. This is so interesting. This is the book that I'm reading from the librarian for me. And so that's the whole idea. Each one of us should live with total 100% integrity, doing your own private studies with the librarian, and then share that with the world. That's your job. That is doing your job. Your job is not to be like some kind of a clerk or whatever, do something for, the government or any of the things that we think are our jobs. Your job is to listen to the librarian, check out the books you are supposed to, learn the things you're supposed to, and express it through you. And that expression, as I said, for me, it's a visual artist, and I also do music too, and I do dance and, gesture and other thing. It comes through you and who you are. So if you love animals, it might come through animals. If you love building things, it might come through engineering. It comes through whatever is your personal talent and proclivity. And that's why it is an insult to the entire meta being that you're within if you sell you sell that, because you're supposed to be doing something for the band. And you're like, I'm selling access to the piccolo, like, or to the trombone. Trombone is selling access. Trombone is not playing the trombone's part. That's not right, because then we don't have the right music in the trombone. So please don't sell access. Please play your own stuff. And there's a way to earn money with integrity. I'm not saying that anybody's bad or wrong, whatever. I'm not on that level. I'm just saying, if you're looking for a source of income, the idea of using your insight to tell other people about their lives and their health and their this and their that is not the best source of income. There's a better way with more integrity, where you're actually playing the notes on your trombone that you're supposed to play. Pedro says the pineal gland looks like it has a rabbit antenna. Yes, rabbit ears. This is like from the previous century. Thank you for that. And your comment is both humorous and highly insightful, because your pineal gland is literally an antenna. And I had that in my notes and I forgot to say it. So just like old-fashioned radio, there are crystal radios. This is like from the 1940s. Actually had vacuum tubes and little tiny crystals inside of them. And the little tiny quartz crystals vibrate in the presence of frequency, and those vibrations are then amplified and it becomes the sounds from the radio. That's old-fashioned radios. Your pineal gland is an old-fashioned radio receiver and transmitter. You're a transceiver. And so let's go to the videotape. Go to the thing. Go to the picture that I drew. Do your thing, man. Here's the pineal gland down here. Now I'm going to draw little tiny crystals inside of there. Let's make the crystals, I don't know, green. Here, these are little tiny crystals that some of them are so small that they're like 1 or 2 atoms stuck together. These crystals vibrate. They pick up the frequencies and vibrations that are the thought structures that are stimulating them. And then they are used in order to emit reality. So this is part of the system through which we perceive the world. And this is also part of the hack of humanity, that it's not just a hack at the intellectual level, it is also a hack at the level of the pineal gland. So if you have not yet gotten to the level of the great librarian, but you're activated up here, like maybe you did something like smoked a bunch of DMT, there are technology using space beings who have the capacity to artificially stimulate the little tiny crystals in your pineal gland so that you see a bunch of nonsense. Cannot trust the insights that you receive when you have artificially augmented your insight. You're extremely vulnerable without like firewalls and Merkabahs and shields. Those higher dimensional, like they're the pooties, the turds. They're sitting on the membrane of death, and they're like, oh, look at that. Sorry, I'm going to use some bad language. Like, look at that a-hole. He just smoked a bunch of DMT. His eye is wide open. Let's throw a bunch of garbage in there. And he'll believe a bunch of stupid nonsense and run around doing a bunch of stupid things and playing horrible music in the band. And they do that so that you understand. This is why people ask me, Aurora, like, tell me all about the astral realm. And I go there when I smoke DMT and blah, blah. I'm like, you're probably visiting the worst neighborhoods, getting the least valuable ideas. You're reading like books that are coffee stained and missing pages, and they're porno. And they're not the right books to read. So yes, this is the challenge of like being not protected, not having a lineage, not having beings that teach you and guide you. Having a lineage is like having a spiritual family. Like when you have a family, you're growing up, your mommy and your daddy and your brothers and your sisters protect you so that you don't get like eaten and run over and starved. You have a chance to actually grow up. That's what the value of having a lineage is. Whatever is your, spiritual or esoteric, family and tradition. And unfortunately, most of us at this point are disconnected from any kind of a lineage. I'm totally a free agent. I'm a jazz musician. I didn't go to the conservatory. I didn't learn about all of this stuff under those levels of protection. And it's been a rocky road. It's very challenging. So it's very nice when we can have that community within which to safely awaken our higher faculties. And it just seems at this time in human history that we are so constrained and limited by these turds that they don't want us to have protection and help in a lineage. So you have to be a little bit like badass. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own anyway, even though it's, much better to travel as a group. Salu says, Gaia, I think that Pedro is referring to physical levitation, not just conscious levitation. Yeah. So, conscious. So, like, if you wanted, like, if you wanted me to show, like, I can levitate my body, and I could show it to you on the screen. Here are the issues with that. First of all, what's my motivation for doing that? I have a magical power. I can levitate. Why do I feel like I need to display it? I want you to think like, wow, I'm impressed. Aurora's like levitating. That's like to serve my ego. Like, you will be impressed with me because I can show you this thing. Or maybe I'll be famous. Like, that's serving my ego. Like, there are all of these questions about if one focuses only on the side dishes on the road to full achievement. What happens? And the answer is, like, you are kind of siphoning off your energy into projects that are not essential and not that great. And usually it is for serving the ego. And that's like saying, like, you're like getting fatter instead of getting more muscles. Like, you're trying to get stronger. You're not trying to like get more out of shape. So there are serious questions about the motivation. If you develop magical powers, who do you display them to, and when, and why, and under what circumstances? To check your motivations for doing stuff like that. Pedro's funny. He says, I will be flying from book to book in the library. I like that very much. Oh, Teddy is agreeing. Thank you very much. Branda's saying, everyone, please ensure your mics are muted. Oh, thank you. Let me go back and just mute everyone to make sure of that. Sorry that I'm so late on reading that. There we go. Gala says, the age of Pisces is a school for psychopaths. Honey, I completely agree with you. Like, the past 2,000 years have been an incredible time of disruption as opposed to harmony. Like, it's not like, oh, the Prince of Peace arrived and now everything is super great. It's like, no, actually everything is super crappy. And that's the challenge. Like, we got up to this level and then got increased powers, but not applied in the right way. And if we look at the esoteric traditions and mystery schools and occultists and stuff like that is representative of awakened inner capacities, but not using them in the right way, not using magic in the right way. Salu says, I still use the word Jesus when referring to Yeshua, just so that people know what I'm talking about. Again, I'm totally at peace with that. Like, I understand that it is so challenging to flap your moving mouth parts, get these concepts across to anyone, and choose the right words. And there's a lot of emotional triggers in all of these religious words, in the words Jesus, in the words Christ, in the words angel and demon and God. So I've had to learn, like, when I'm saying these words, like, it can be hard to get through the smudges on the lens. This class is wonderful. Like, I'm never concerned about the people that I'm talking to in this class. And you guys know not to take my stuff out of context. Much more challenging when I write things on social media, because oftentimes people think Aurora is a religious fundamentalist crackpot. I'm like, no, I'm not, but thank you. But let's have a conversation about this and learn more. Yeah. And like, if someone's going to say, like, what if you're, in a moment of crisis and you cry like, oh, Jesus, like, it's not like the cosmos is going to be like, oops, she used the wrong vocabulary word, screw her, we're not going to help. No, not at all. Like, if you're super sick and dying and blood is pouring out and you say, like, oh, Jesus, help me, like, that's what matters. Your intention is what matters. Don't get too stuck in the words and the form that we're using. Gala has a dream to share. She says, my dream was about the Buddha, or someone that looked like Buddha. And he had all these people connected to him with wires, but the people did not see the wires. They only seen the prayer beads around their neck. That is interesting and beautiful. And I think that's what we are. That's what we are doing. The most amazing thing is, as we awaken these individual higher faculties, we find ourselves connected to other people who live at the same time and place, and even the past and even the future. So the show Sense8 on Netflix, not an endorsement of everything in that show, because I think it had a lot of weird sex stuff, because I'm going to tell you that this is not a sexual free-for-all. The parts of the show that I liked were the idea of people who are very divergent personalities and cultural backgrounds that are all connected, through a supernatural telepathic connection, and that they share their capacities in moments of crisis. So, the kung fu person comes through you when you need to fight a battle, and the driver comes through when you need to drive a bus or whatever. And that is a very good analogy for what this awakened culture feels like, what it feels like when you awaken your higher faculties and we all connect on that level of telepathy that is done on a bridge of love. It means you have access not only to your own personal repertoire of skills and intelligences, but other people too. If you're like, okay, like I need to figure out how to do this thing. How do I do this thing? I don't know. I don't have that in my memory banks. Well, how about I reach out on a bridge of telepathy to some of the other brothers and sisters in Christ that I'm connected to, and then I can get ideas and inspiration from them. And it becomes a larger organism of consciousness, and the beings that you reach out to on a bridge of telepathic love can be from the ancient past or from the far distant future or from another planet. But the stuff that I don't endorse in that show Sense8 is the idea of having some kind of like mental orgies. Mental orgies. No, that is like freaky sex stuff that I'm not talking about. So when you have a telepathic world on a bridge of love, it is not a free-for-all where it's like, oh, I'm going to go and talk to you while you're on the toilet. Like, no, I'm pooping. This is private time. Talk to me later. So that's why in order to be loving, you knock, knock, knock. You say, hey, is it a good time? No, not a good time. I'm pooping. Let's talk later. Or whatever. So that's it. Everybody deserves the privacy of their own world, of their own body sovereignty, life sovereignty, mind sovereignty, even as you are connecting with other beings. So Lucis Gala, there are still plenty of New Agers, fake spirituality. I agree, fake spirituality, who still do follow authority, typical of the Piscean age. Rather than self-searching and raising their own energies, they internet search instead of and subsequently believe in whatever dogma suits their current ego structure. So well said, thank you. It's the same thing, just under different guise. I completely agree. So some of these fake spirituality New Agers, they might be like, okay, like I got out of the Christian church, I got out of that, but I'm going to follow this guy who wrote these books and has an inspirational calendar, like word a day from Eckhart Tolle or whatever. Like, it's the same thing. Like, you're still looking outside of yourself instead of getting the library card, connecting to the information of the cosmos, and being your own inspirer, being your own guide and your own leader. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that it took me so long to mute the class. Sorry about that. I did eventually mute. Teddy says, I so resonate with the whole concept of us evolving past the outer authority notion. Maybe all the government corruption becoming visible is helping the larger tribe get good and sick of government authority and begin to consider an alternative like inner authority. This can help me bless the corruption. Teddy, I love you. I love you for that insight and that approach. I think that's exactly what is happening. We're in what is sometimes culturally described as the extinction explosion, the thing that happens before the big change. So if someone's like smoking tobacco and they smoked for 50 years and then their doctor tells them like, yeah, you know something, after 50 years, it's finally time for you to quit. If they only smoked 1 pack a day, and they'll be like, I have to smoke 2 packs a day, because they're like gonna do the behavior to a crazy level and then be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm not going to smoke tobacco anymore. I think that's what we are doing with government corruption. I think the government corruption has not only ratcheted up to profound levels of intensity, but is now visible. It's visible. You can tell like, oh, it's like, you shouldn't take it just as it's a matter of course. Oh, that's just the way it is. You should be like, wow, look at that. We have a 2-tier justice system. You know, fancy people wearing suits commit crimes and they don't go to jail, and regular people wearing a hoodie commit a crime and they go to jail. This is evident. Corporate control of our government, satanic, read here, non-terrestrial malevolent technology users, controlling our government, very evident. The agenda of our government, which is not to, make human life better or even merely to continue its own existence, but is literally like to consume human life and destroy. Like, yes, the corruption is now evident to the level of the extinction explosion. It cannot happen anymore. So I usually don't get into politics in these programs, these presentations rather that I do here. I save that for talking on my personal Facebook page, because mostly I talk about empirical abstractions in this class. But I will say that what I'm perceiving in terms of government right now is, in 2016, when there was the United States presidential election, I really considered, because it's participating in like a ritual. If you vote, do I want to vote? How do I feel? What do I blah, blah, blah? And I did vote, and I said, hey, if this goes in this direction, then it's clear that this is that the voting system is so profoundly distorted that you cannot participate in this in good faith anymore. That's what the system presented to me. It became very clear that the system of nominating potential leaders and the way that the software is used in counting the votes, everything about the election process is so profoundly corrupt that I find that it is no longer ethical for me to participate in it. Anybody can do what they feel is right. Like I'm just looking at the over here. Now people are talking about who they're going to vote for in 2020, and this has been going on for like years since the problems of the 2016 election. I'm like, guys, like, stop being insane. You're not going to vote your way out of this. The voting system itself is profoundly corrupt. Yes, we should vote as concerned citizens, but not in this system anymore. We have to profoundly change and restructure the entire system before you begin to vote or have your voice heard, because at this point you're participating in putting energy into a distorted system. It's like if you have your laundry machine that's imbalanced, it goes ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. Put more laundry in so that it will go further out of that. Like that is all that you're just putting gasoline on the fire. It's just getting worse and worse. So yeah, what I promote, what I say is not that we should continue to uphold the present system and the present level of government. I do not feel that we should save the republic. I know this is not, I'm not a patriot. The QAnon people would say, don't listen to Aurora. She's not a patriot. She doesn't believe in preserving the republic. And the truth is I don't. I don't feel that we should preserve our United States Republic, and I don't feel that we should preserve international government as it presently stands, because it is so profoundly corrupt. We need a huge toilet flush. We need a big cleanse, drink some aloe, flush all that stuff out, and start from a different perspective. So thank you for your comment, Teddy, because I think that is exactly what is going on. That everyone here internationally is now on the same page of recognizing that government is not here to serve man. To serve man is a cookbook. They're cooking you. They're not serving you, man. They're cooking you. And we have to protect ourselves from being cooked. We get on to the next question. Genius says, Aurora, so why does the story of Yeshua, as presented in the Bible, tell us that his body was gone after his crucifixion? Is it to make the regular mortals believe that death is an actual thing and only the quote-unquote Son of God, son like the star, can go back through the portal to connect with the Great Spirit, and also to make believers hope for his return or confuse them even more? So my understanding of the teachings of the Christian church right now is that it's like a, pardon my French, it's a mind fuck. It's telling you a lie to bring you in the wrong direction. So if we're looking at the time vortex and these are the membranes of death, the Christian church is telling you, like, go at an angle and go into the membrane of death, and then you will die, but you will achieve a type of resurrection and live again due to the human sacrifice known as Jesus on the cross and the crucifixion. And this is actually not only a Christian belief, or I want to say an evangelical Christian belief. It is also a Orthodox Jewish belief. So there's many different flavors of Judaism. Some Jews are super strict in observing all the 613 commandments, and they believe that there will be an actual return of a physical bearded man, and that everybody who ever lived and died will be resurrected by, it's called the Lud bone, L-U-D. It's the little tiny pivot bone at the very top of your spine that your skull kind of sits on top of. It's a little, like, pointy kind of pyramid-shaped bone. They say everybody's going to be resurrected by their Lud bone. And this is actually not that different from the ancient Egyptian funerary tradition, which mummified its participants because it felt that preserving the skeletal remains was essential to a form of eternal life. The mind F in this is that you're not supposed to die in order to stay alive. You're not supposed to die in order to ascend or transcend mortality. So how can I explain and describe this? The story of the crucifixion is a fantasy or a myth that is designed to tell everybody, don't worry that you crashed your car and drove off the road, because your car is going to be magically fixed up in the magical body shop, and then you'll find yourself alive again. That's not truthful. That is a lie. If you drive your car off the road, your car will be smashed up horribly on the pavement, and you will not be alive anymore. This is where, like, I could just keep my mouth shut and not talk about all this stuff and probably have a lot more friends and I would find a lot more social acceptance if I didn't say these things that are critical of this idea of it's a foundation of this society right now. And even if you're not a practicing Jew or a practicing Christian, we exist, even if you're a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Muslim, within this Judeo-Christian structure of society that has this expectation of your personal death, your personal eschaton, and planetary eschaton. End of the world, the Kali Yuga from the Hindu tradition, the end of the world, Book of Revelation from the Christian tradition. It's all incredibly unhealthy. All of that stuff is like the mind virus that has been injected to have everybody expect death and expect death to be something that is necessary and even embrace it. Be like, I'm going to die. That's okay, because then I'm going to get resurrected, or then I'm going to go to heaven, or then I'm going to be in my Father's mansion and everything's going to be so great. So, yeah, death is not necessary. You can connect with the Great Spirit and to the Son, independent of any kind of human sacrifice. Like, that's a real mind F there. The idea like that guy over there has to die so I can live forever. No, that's not what is supposed to happen. No. No, so, yeah, none of that is anything. Sorry I didn't mute until just a moment ago, guys. It sounds like it was very distracting. I'm so sorry. Stacy has a lovely comment. Stacy says, I wish I could just hold a book and absorb all of its content. Let me just drink a little bit of water and then I'll respond to that. I believe that is a telepathic gift that is called, I think, bibliomancy, whatever. So Edgar Casey, no, not Edgar Casey. Yes, Edgar Casey was said to be a very poor student when he was growing up. Like, he would, read his math book or read his history book, and he didn't really understand it and got poor marks. But what he started doing was falling asleep with the book on his chest, and that somehow that made it possible for him to absorb the information more easily. There are some people who have a particular talent where they can touch a thing. Like, let's say this is a book or an object, or you go into a thrift store and you use your attention to touch the thing. And in doing so, you can read the object. So let's say this is a knife. Go in a thrift store, go in a pawn shop or whatever, you pick up a knife and you touch it with your mind and you're like, oh, this knife was used to murder someone. There are people who can sense that. I actually have a friend, she's passed on at this point, but she used to do all sorts of readings of objects, both art objects, clothing objects, all sorts of things, and she picked up a lot of weird shit, and it's not necessarily useful information. So again, these are like side dishes to the main dish, the entree, which is enlightenment. So don't get stuck on the side dishes. Don't fill up on bread. Don't, eat the real nourishment. Don't just fill up on, like, I want to learn to levitate so I can get all the chicks, or I can, impress people, or I can do things that seem to be simple and easy. What you really want to do is transcend reality. But you know what? When you begin to activate this higher faculty, you do absorb information almost instantaneously, but it's the information from the cosmic librarian. So you will have downloads or flashes of insight that are exactly the nutrients and the ideas that you need at that moment. But it's not necessarily like, if you have to go through a PhD program or something like that, and you get a stack of books, it's not necessarily like you can use your shortcut of your inner vision. Just be like, oh, I'll just do that in a night, and then I'll, be ready for my PhD thesis, after 5 hours or something like that. Teddy says, I'm sure the age of Pisces could have been used to higher purposes, but was not. Could the age of Aquarius be co-opted similarly? What a wonderful question. My understanding is that the age of Aquarius will be a time beyond religion. We don't have gurus or icons or idols to worship, or any external authority figure telling you what to do, because you are the teacher. You are the divine being. You are the special person. What would it be if we had a whole society full of divine beings, full of special people? What if every single inhabitant of our earthly human society was an Olympic athlete with a genius intellect, who could play and write music as beautifully as Mozart and paint as beautifully as whatever Van Gogh or whoever's your favorite painter, and with a heart of gold, and who can, heal anything, like your mind or your body or your spirit, just by hugging you. Like, what if that was our world? That's what our world is supposed to be. That's what our world can be. So that's how I perceive what the world that we're moving into. There's not going to be a authority and control structure because we are the authority and the control structure. So this also means that it requires a great deal of personal responsibility. Like you awaken your higher faculties and then you take responsibility for your life. That there's no one else telling you where to put your hands on the piano and what notes to play. Like it's a lot. You gotta learn a lot. Robin says observation of misuse of sexual energy for many here. Yes. And the misuse of sexual energy is actually connected to the attention and the Christ chakra up here, because what you are touching on, what you're attenuating to, you are eating, tasting, and becoming a part of. So if you are touching on someone who's not your sexual partner, like you're making love to a physical person, but your mind is fantasizing about Marilyn Monroe or whoever is your sex object or whatever, you are doing things that are sexually unethical. You should be focusing your attention on your partner that is right in front of you, not fantasizing about someone else or about baseball scores. I've read that males do this for some reason. That is also not appropriate. Or projecting sexual energy on someone who is not a consensual partner. Like that's not ethical use of this part of your body. And of course, the librarian would never encourage you to do that. So if you're doing stuff like that, it's coming from the mind virus, the distortions that are have been running humanity for a long time. So Lou says, Aurora, that's how I can tell you're real. It's a recognition, not a belief-based assumption for me. Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Cece says, thank you for talking about politics and government. Any insight if it will be gone soon? Okay, I don't do predictions about the future. And one of the reasons for that is, so I use my eye of insight to look at what is happening from my perspective down the road, in front of my car. And I see that there's a wide array. There's all these different lanes on the highway that it can go in. So there's so many different possible futures. So I don't make predictions about the future. So what I do see is like there are various different, timelines and possibilities. I align with all of the possibilities where we have an immediate, almost very soon, almost instantaneous transformation. Like we've all been primed for it. It's just like if you're setting up a dominoes, like you set up all the things, set up. It just takes that one initiatory impulse to transform the entire scene. Or like if you have a super saturated solution, like sugar water, and then it looks like regular water, but all you have to do is drop one seed crystal into that super saturated solution, and the entire thing crystallizes instantaneously. So I tell you this, not to give you hopium or shine you on and tell you, it's going to be so great, it's going to be so great. No, not at all. And also we've been like slogging through SHIT for a very long time. And it's like, I'm very tired. This is very boring. I don't like this. All of that work, all of that slogging has been worthy and important and setting the stage for what we are experiencing now. We are prepared internally for that moment when the seed crystal comes into our world or our personal experience. The seed crystal is an idea that initiates that transformation inside of each one of us. So I'm really aligning myself with the possibilities where that transformative moment happens. We have a inner transformation, a cultural transformation, a transformation of perception. Like when you start to see clearly, like it's getting the they live sunglasses, the magical glasses where you think, these people are monsters. These people are politicians. These people are freaks. These people are, religious leaders. When you use your eye of insight, you're not going to be fooled anymore. You know who's who. One of my wishes or mantras or things that I say, may all masks be removed. May all true faces become evident. Guys, I don't hide from you. When you open up your eye of insight and you look at me, it's going to be awesome. Like, it's going to be great. I won't predict what you see, but just wait till that day. And when you open your eye of insight and you look at whatever, like horrible, disgusting politicians, you'd be like, these people are monsters. They're monsters. You can tell. You can see who's a monster. Everyone is already starting to be able to see. It's like if you're just waking up and you just kind of open your eye a little bit and you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of see something over there. You can see who's monsters, really. But I think just don't freak out about it, Genia says it well. She says sovereignty is the way. That's what it is. The personal, the movement towards personal sovereignty. I don't know if that's the word or if words matter so much that we have to worry about this. But yes, the idea of not requiring government permission to do things, community-based solutions, and self-responsibility for everything like health, food, finances, everything. Pedro says, do we turn the wheel or do we break it? For the steering wheel of reality, I would say turn the wheel. Like if we want to drive down the road and the wheel is our mind and our imagination and our attention, I kind of want to break our mind. And I know that it's frustrating to be here, but the system itself is a cool system. It's just that it's been hacked and subverted. So the road is a good road. Your car is a good car. Your steering wheel is a good steering wheel. But there's been a lot of problems on the road. So we can fix this and rectify it quite a lot. So Lou says, is that what all of your harmonic art represents? The structure of the great spirit that the advanced have connected with at the divine level. Fascinating. See, these are side dishes. You totally get it, Salud. That is an excellent description of what my art is all about. It is the structure of the great spirit that the advanced have connected with at the divine level. I think that is a really good way of saying it. So this is that abstract truth coming through me, the filter called Aurora. And I make paintings in art projects that look like this. That abstract truth can come through differently flavored filters that makes them taste like tangerine or strawberry instead of like Aurora. And it will look like something different, but it can still carry the same divine energy. It comes from the same place. So this is in yogic tradition, we have spiritual connection with a genuine guru, not a fake one. And so rather than following, quote unquote, we have a connection at the spiritual level. It originated from yogic transition, not Hinduism. Just thought I'd make that distinction. Thank you. I'm not that well versed in either yoga, what yogic tradition is, or Hinduism. Like I only know a little bit of it, and people keep on teaching me more. So thank you very much for that, and I appreciate your presence in this class to make those distinctions of clarity. Teddy says, I have insight, says, I got to go. Love you back. Thank you so much. Thank you. Pedro says, Yoda said it right. Always in motion is the future. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Cece. Pedro says, the wheel references the Game of Thrones from your comment of changing the government. Oh, got it. I haven't kept up with Game of Thrones since that scene where the guy got his eyeballs popped out because I'm like, that is too violent. I can't expose myself to that. So, yes. The government is a non-physical entity, just like a virus. It relies upon its host. If the government killed off all of us, the government could not continue to survive because it requires its host to survive. So it plays a game of balance where it's like, I want to get misery and resources from you, but I don't want to totally kill you. So that's what the agenda right now is, basically Agenda 21, but it's like Agenda 20, Agenda 21. They keep on moving the goalpost, Agenda 25, Agenda 2030, because they can't get their SHIT together because basically their motivation or agenda is to corral all humanity into smart cities, quote unquote, that where it's totalitarian state where all of your resources, food, income, and electricity and heat and everything like that is all controlled by the government, by an AI, by like a power grid, and you have almost no freedom. And then there are large, unused, areas like wild spaces that are not inhabited by humanity. Oh, I think we're going to get a visit from Tiki over here. Come on up. Come on up. Oh my goodness. Need some hugging and kissing over here. Thank you. Thank you for visiting, boss. That's so great. Oh, awesome. Good. Genia, thank you so much for your lovely comment. She's saying that she really valued being here today. Thank you so much. So let me just take a brief, I've literally used up 2 hours on level 1. I knew that it would be very long and everything like that. Do you guys have the stamina for me to go for another hour for level 2? Or should I just say this is class for today and I'll move on to level 2 and combine that for everything for next week? What do you say, guys? Just have a moment and hug. Gala needs to go to sleep and she lives in France. Thank you, Gala, and we'll catch up. It's so lovely to see you. Okay, good. Everyone is saying please do level 2. So we will do level 2. Good. I have the time. I'm totally fine. But you know what I might need to do? Might need to stop the recording, take a moment, take someone to go make a pee outside. I think that's what we might need to do. And then I'll come back and do level 2. And I think I might do a shortened version of level 2. Cool. Awesome, guys. Let me stop the recording for right now. Hold on a minute. Thank you so much to everybody for your wonderful questions.